All right, welcome everybody to the Right to the City Stewardship Peer Learning Group. We are so excited to have you here today, along with our special guests, Dr. Ashley Allen and Hope Williams, with the Houston Community Land Trust and San Francisco Community Land Trust, respectively. But before we get started, we'd like to check in with everyone who's on the call today. So I'm saying we just go around, name, share your pronouns if you like, where you're calling in from today, if you're with an organization, what that organization is, and a song on your heart today is our check-in question. And I'll get us started. I'm going to say I'm an Emerald 10, and my song is Build Me Up by Cleo Sol. The piece that it reminds me of is like We Need You is like the chorus. We need you. And I'll pass it to Ashley. Thanks for joining us.
Hello, can you all hear me? I'm on unfamiliar Wi-Fi, so I need to.
Loud and
Yeah,
clear.
okay, great.
Perfect.
Thank you all. Hi, Ashley Allen, Executive Director, Houston Community Land Trust, and checking in actually not from Houston, Texas, from Chicago, Illinois today. So yeah, not in a different spot, a city that I used to live in, and a song that's on my heart. I would say. Let the sun shine in because it's a beautiful sunny day and it's perfect weather out here.
Awesome. Thanks, Ashley. You could pass it to the next person.
Let's see. I'll pass it who I can see. Renee Gonzalez.
Hello, everyone. I'm Rene Gonzalez. I'm the General Manager for the Esperanza Community Land Trust. I'm here in San Antonio, and I don't have a song in my heart. I usually have the classical music station on, and I can never remember the names of the songs. So, but they just played something by um, Mahler. So I think it was Symphony Number 2. So classical music is in my heart and my brain right now. And I'll pass it to Zaira.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Saida, she, her. I am national staff with Right to the City. Um, I've been listening to some Al Green lately, and a song that I was just listening to is I'm Still in Love with You, just because it reminds me of being a child. My dad was a big oldies fan, and I love listening to it all the time. I will hand it over to Kate.
And also just an announcement, if you haven't joined the interpretation room that matches your language, please do that. It should be like a globe on the bottom or the dot 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 more. If you're English only, choose English and then Spanish for Spanish. Thank you. And Kate, you're up. Good to see you.
Hey, yes, this is Kay Kananur. I'm sorry, I am not yet able to go on camera, but I will at some point of time. But I'm calling in from Memphis, Tennessee. I work with the Binghamton Community Land Trust. Hmm, Song, um, I'm gonna promote any Afrobeat song, and I'm just gonna pass it on to Hope Williams.
Hi everyone. Sorry, a little sick, so my head's fuzzy. What is the song? There was a Bill Withers song that came to mind the other day, very sunshiny. I'll find the name. It's not coming to me right now, but Google will help check. And I will pass it to Will, if he's gone yet.
Good afternoon, everybody. Will Blake, pronouns he, him, with the Freedom Block here in Akron, Ohio. I would say a song that's on my heart right now would be Golden by Jill Scott. I just love the vibes of that and the charge to live my life like it's golden. And I will pass it over to, did Veronica Hamilton go?
Have not gone. My name is Veronica Hamilton. I'm from the Indianapolis Community Land Trust. And my song I'm gonna say is Do You Realize by the Flaming Lips. And I just think it is a good summer song. Puts me in the mood for the summer. Oh, and I'm gonna have to pass it to somebody. I'll pick Nicholas.
Thank you, Veronica. Hi, everyone. Happy happy Monday to everybody. I want to let me see. I'm currently standing board president for the Community Land Trust and the Indianapolis Community Land Trust, serving with Veronica. Trying to see if there's any others on the board there, but I would say um I don't know. I watched a couple movies this past weekend, and there was a lot of good blues music. Fats Domino, BB King, um, really enjoyed that. So that kind of took me for the last week or two. So that's kind of where I'm at, and I will pass it to. Let me see who has not. Let me see. Is that Jessica Bautista? Don't know. Jessica's not there. Um.
Yes, sorry, I was having some trouble.
Oh, okay.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Jessica with Poder Emma. I use she, her pronouns, and I don't have a specific song right now, but I have been listening to the Marias a lot lately. I'll pass it on to um who hasn't gone? I'll pass it to Rocio.
Hola a todos. Yo soy
Hi
Rocío
everyone, I'm
Albiter
Rocio
con Poder Emma
Albiter. I'm with Poder
en
Emma
Asheville, Carolina del
in
Norte.
Asheville, North Carolina.
Y la pregunta era
And the question
acerca de qué
was
música
about
traemos
the
últimamente.
music that
No
we're
me
listening
conecté
to
porque
lately, or I'm
tenía
sorry,
problemas
I,
con la
I
computadora.
was having issues with my computer when the check-in question was
Creo
asked.
que
Yeah, that's
hace,
perfect.
bueno, ahora mismo no sé si en el corazón, pero sí
Oh, I don't
en
know
la
if it's in my heart right
música.
now.
Estuve
But
viendo una serie
generally,
hace
at least, well,
como
recently I was watching
3 semanas
this series.
mexicana que se llama
Maybe 3 weeks
Mentiras
ago. It's a Mexican
y tiene
series.
mucho la música de los 80s, 90s, eh, de
Um,
Amanda Miguel, de Daniela Romo y
with Amanda
muchas
Miguel, Daniela
viejitas,
Romo, and these
pero estas son
other
las que traigo ahorita
older
en mente,
ladies. And so I
las
have
canciones
them
de los
on my
90,
mind.
las
These
canciones
songs from the
viejitas.
90s and the 80s in
Y se lo
Spanish.
paso a,
And I'm gonna pass it
no sé
to
si René, o
maybe, I
Renea,
don't know if Renee
se lo
went. Did
paso,
Renee go?
Renea.
Yeah, Renee went, but we have Carol hasn't gone. Carol, you want to go next?
Sure, I'm trying to get, okay. Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm Carol, and I'm from Pittsburgh, PA, and I serve at the Hill District Consensus Group. And I think we're talking about our favorite songs. I have a ton, but one I was been listening to lately is Frankie Beverly and Mays. We Are One. Yeah, because we just have to get that across to the world, I believe. So I don't know who to pass it on to. Um, who
Think,
has on
did
what?
we miss anybody? I think we might have got everybody.
Okay.
Hi, this is Darnell with Homes
Oh,
for All South.
Darnell. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Him with Homes for All South. I'm the regional coordinator for our Homes for All groups in the South. And so I'm on the call supporting our groups from the South. I got wind of the call and the teaching through Adrian today. But a song, it's funny, all the song choices that folks have named are songs that I like. And it made me go to my Spotify list and go, okay, what was the immediate last song that I just heard? And so it was God Bless the Road That Led Me to You by Winans. And so that's my song of the day today. and check. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thanks, Darnell, and everyone for joining. So we will go ahead and kick it to our special guest today, starting with Dr. Ashley Allen, who's got to hop off a few minutes early. So, Dr. Allen, I'll let you take it over. Just a little bit about yourself and anything else you want to share with the group. If you want me to prompt you with questions, I can, but I'll let you take it from here.
Oops, you're muted, Dr. Allen.
There we go. All right. Sorry. Thank you. Yes. So, yep, I like questions. So if you all have any questions afterwards, please feel free. But I'll just start a little bit about myself. So I have been the executive director. I'm the founding executive director of the Houston Community Land Trust and have been I've served in this role since 2018. So going on 7 years, which it seems that it has gone by very quickly. But I started, this is my second career working in nonprofits. My first career, I was a scientist. I was a food scientist and chemist, but knew that my actual passion and what I knew I was supposed to be doing was supposed to be community work. And so I went and started working at my church's nonprofit here in Chicago, Illinois. So it's very interesting to be here back in Chicago doing work related to the CLT. This is where my path kind of started working in housing. I was a homeless youth, and so I always wanted to try to figure out ways to be able to give back and ways to try to address the issues that me and my family had faced as I was growing up. So in addition to, housing insecurity, what causes that housing insecurity? It's, the fight for 15, and now it should be the fight for 25 to make sure that people are earning enough to be able to provide for themselves. My mom worked, full time, overtime, and still did not make enough to be able to keep housing over our heads. So we were facing homelessness on and off for over a decade. One of the reasons why I actually ended up going to college was because I wanted to have a dorm so that I could have a stable place to live. So that was kind of how I got interested in housing, was just my own personal experience and lived experience with housing insecurity and instability. And I started volunteering with the Chicago Coalition for the Homeless and became a community organizer and learned about housing policy and kind of some of the things that impact housing in cities. Uh, when we know that there are resources available, but why are we continuously always having to kind of chase affordability? How does this happen in places where there's so many resources? And so I went back and got a master's in public administration to learn more about how government works. How does policy work? How do we get ourselves in these positions? And continue to work in the nonprofit space in a variety of ways through biotech, being able to use science, but also doing work that was impactful. So increasing diversity in STEM fields was kind of how I initially got into nonprofit work. Again, working at my church's nonprofit, being a volunteer of the Chicago Coalition for the Homeless, and then ended up working in youth programming, because I also, as a youth, understood that some of the things that I faced and struggled with, whether it be housing insecurity, an incarcerated parent, having to figure out how to manage school while you're dealing with life situations. Those are things that I wanted to help other young people kind of navigate through, because I struggled through those things. And in the nonprofit sector, it's a choice because it's hard work, but I knew in my heart of hearts that's where I was supposed to be. And so all of those experiences kind of coming together led me to my current job with the Houston Community Land Trust, because I truly believed in having creating security in housing and in communities through different tools, CLT being one of them. And so came in 2018. We started from the very, very beginning with the ground up. We didn't even have payroll when we started. I had to try to even figure out how to get a paycheck. So we definitely started from scratch. We did have initially had a lot of city backing. And we were able to scale because of that city backing. What I always tell people, it's great to have your municipality, whether it be the city, the county, behind you, but also understand that when you are working with government, the tides can change very quickly. We're seeing that on the federal level. Well, that happened in Houston, where we had a lot of backing from the city and then had none at all, because of internal politics, just different priorities. Right now, housing is not a priority in the city of Houston in regards to policies and where the mayor wants to take the city. It's definitely probably much lower on the totem pole than it was with our former mayor, but even he lost support. We lost support of the mayor previously, again, due to internal politics, not because the program wasn't working, not for any other reason, but things change in politics and people show loyalty. We're seeing that at the federal level. So you want to have your city behind you when you're doing this work, for sure, because they have the money and the resources, but understanding you can't put all of your eggs in that basket, because the tides can change politically at any given moment, and that can compromise your ability to keep functioning as a nonprofit organization. So we started with a partnership with the city, which was able to get us the operating dollars to start. And then also they were able to provide subsidy funds. We used what some of you all may know as TIF, tax increment financing dollars, or here they're called, in Houston, they're called TERS, tax increment redevelopment zone dollars, to be able to fund the subsidies that made the properties affordable for our home owners. And we started with home ownership because people unfortunately have a stigma when you say affordability or affordable housing, but they also really love the idea of home ownership. And so so it was decided by the city that we would start with home ownership, because we could really push affordability while also getting a lot of support for home ownership. Versus if you start with multifamily or rentals, people think multifamily or affordable rentals and they think housing projects, even though that is absolutely inaccurate. That is just what people believe, and that's what they think. So we started the CLT doing home ownership so that people could really see how it could benefit something that they already support, which is home ownership. So it was easier for us to get buy-in from the general public. It was easier to get buy-in from the city by starting with single family, even though single family is very difficult. It requires a lot of funding. It did allow us to get a lot of buy-in, because in Texas, people are obsessed with land. And so the idea of a community land trust, oh, sorry, thank you. Interpretation of thank you. Yes, I will slow down. I'm sorry, I do talk fast. So with our initial plans, the home buyer education components were already there in the city of Houston. We had CDCs, organizations like the Urban League, Habitat for Humanity, that were already doing like home buyer education and trying to help those of lower AMIs to be able to access homeownership. And so we were able to kind of use those resources as a partnership. And then also getting people comfortable with the idea of not technically owning their land by putting it and attaching that to homeownership. So I think being strategic in how we went into community also benefited us as well, to be able to help us get buy-in from folks. As a community organizer, I knew to go where people are, not to have them come to us, but to go to the actual community and start having the conversations, not just going in and saying, hey, we have some houses that you can buy for a really low cost. Do you want one? It was, hey, what's going on in the community? Do you see the homes that are being built? And the response usually was yes, but they're not for us. We can't afford them. And then having conversations about what is the impact of the new homes coming into your community. It's driving up housing costs. It's creating higher tax burdens for those who have been in the community for a really long time, and now we're being pushed out. So starting with those relational conversations help to say, okay, yes, we see a problem, and then coming in and presenting the community land trust as a solution. We had our initial meetings in the community where we were starting. So the library, we would hold meetings there. We have what's called multi-service centers that are in several communities. We would meet there, put flyers there. We were going to local churches and presenting there, putting it in the church bulletin, in front of the grocery store. We got a table and handed out flyers and talked to people, meeting them again where they were, and really getting them to say, okay, we see what's happening in our community. The city, the county, other organizations have promised us affordability, but they haven't really done it. And so there was already skepticism, because anytime you talk about government, people are like, well, I don't know. We've seen what they've done before. And so it was really working hard to, again, create relationships and have those conversations while then presenting a solution through the community land trust that helped to get the buy-in. So we currently have 200 homeowners that bought a home through the CLT using city subsidies. Our average mortgage for our home buyers is about $107,000, with monthly payments, including taxes and insurance, and their CLT fee being about $1,076 is their all in. And it ranges from about 550 up to about 1,400, but we have very few at that 1,400 level. So in Houston, you can't even get a decent two-bedroom apartment for $1,070 something. So we really are talking about affordability and reaching an average AMI, area median income, of about 61%. And then being able to get them in the home is one thing, but the stewardship piece is really important as well, to be able to make sure that they stay in the home. So we are a traditional community land trust where we have the stewardship after they purchase the home, as well as the traditional tripartite board model with residents on the board. We are a membership organization as well. So we do try to utilize the traditional community land trust model, although some CLTs will pick, what components they would like to incorporate. We definitely try to align with the most traditional version of that CLT. And what I would encourage people when they're thinking about the CLT on the back end, not just getting the housing piece, but the stewardship, is really listening to what your residents need, but also recognizing sometimes they don't realize what they need, and then being able to think about how you're going to protect the homeowner, protect the asset over time. So an example of that would be, one of the things that we are excited about the community land trust model is you can pass the affordability down to your heirs. So one of the things that we found out in kind of this process and talking with attorneys is that a will doesn't protect the home from probate. So if someone passes away and all they have is a will, the family then has to fund going to probate court, which, if we're talking about limited income families, most can't do or don't even know how to. And so that can be costly. It can mean that there are back taxes. The home could be lost because of that. The heir may not even have the means to be able to maintain the home. And then the family is just fighting. We've seen it a lot where people lose their homes because the family cannot make decisions on who's going to get the home and who's going to have the final say. So what we did was say, okay, well, we see this as a problem, and we know a lot of our homeowners are excited about the fact that they've bought an asset they can pass down. So what we did was talk to a local law school, University of Houston Law, and they did a presentation about wills and estate planning. And it was then told to us that the best way to ensure the property and asset is passed down is to do a transfer on death deed. And so we required all homeowners to then have a transfer on death deed. And then CLT pays the $50 to file it with the courts. Their heirs are now involved in the actual estate planning, and it makes sure that the CLT is not trying to fight a family member of one of our homeowners in the case of their passing. So now the home is protected. It is going to then be able to be passed on to their heir. And now we are actually talking about, the benefits of the CLT and that affordability. If you do not have those types of things in place, that could then compromise the efforts in which you are trying to, the efforts of trying to keep that asset and create wealth for your residents. So those are the kind of things that you might not know going in, because we had no idea about transfer on death deeds going into this, but we knew we wanted to address the kind of need and the excitement of our homeowners being able to pass that down to their heirs and that affordability. So when you're thinking about stewardship, you want to, one, think about what is it that your homeowners are requesting. One of the things that they requested was, can we pay our CLT fees online? So we pay it through QuickBooks and they get a link, but some of them wanted to pay for a quarter for the year. And they were like, is there a way that we can do that? We said, okay, that makes sense. So we worked with somebody who knows how to set up systems. And online, we were able to put a button up. Our homeowners can now pay quarterly, they can pay annually, they can pay for, they can pay for one single month. But just being able to address their needs to make home ownership easier for them was a big part of the stewardship. And we have other fun things like holiday parties to create engagement and keep people together, because we are a CLT that services a much larger area. We're the city, but also part of the county as well. So we're talking about 669 square miles that we service. And so it's really important for us to be able to have opportunities for our homeowners to get together and to be able to engage with one another, because they don't all live in the same community. And then after we had our home ownership component, our program that was again 200 homeowners, we then were able to start thinking about what are some of the other things that CLTs our residents and the community was looking for. So some of them would say, hey, I have a family member who is interested in CLT, but they're not ready to buy a home. And then some communities would say, well, what about rentals? We need help too. Rentals are expensive. And so then we said, okay, the city did not allow for us to do rentals with the money that they initially gave us. So when we had some unrestricted dollars, we then said, okay, well, let's test out the rental model. So now we have 4 rental units, and we're able to support people from about 30% AMI up to 80% in an area that's gentrifying very rapid or has gentrified. And there are very few quality affordable rentals, especially not 2 bedrooms. And so that has been able to be something that we've added on to home ownership, the 4 rentals, and we're hoping to expand that more. And then we also have been able to support people who want to put their home in the CLT. So we started with people buying their home and putting in the CLT, but people who already owned their home were struggling as well. We had people who were living in gentrifying areas that were now unable to pay their taxes because the homes have appreciated so much. People who are worried about maintaining their home because we've had natural disasters, they've had deferred maintenance, and they need help to be able to improve their home. So we were able to we did our first rehab and opt-in program just in May. We finished in May, and a family was able to put their home into the CLT, and then we provided money for repairs to improve the home because it had been hit with a bad addition. Somebody had come in, a bad contractor came in and messed up their home, and then it got hit with Hurricane Beryl over the last summer. And so they had to be displaced out of their home. We were able to provide them with the repairs and then also put it in the CLT so the affordability would remain even after the home was repaired. So we're working on our second rehab now. And there are several more people, particularly seniors, that really need to stabilize their current home, and they need repairs and they can't afford the appreciation. And so the CLT is now an option for them. And then our last project that we've completed is we just acquired a community space actually last Thursday. And so that will be used for partially our offices, but also for community meetings that people can rent it out for low cost, events, as well as small businesses will be able to rent out offices for them to kind of get themselves and see clients and things of that nature. So therapists, attorneys, they can use our offices as a way to be able to meet with clients outside of like a coffee shop or places that are not that are a little bit too public. So being able to provide that community support is really important, because we always tell people it's not just the homes that make a community, it's all the other spaces as well. And so now Houston CLT now has a home base because we've been remote since the pandemic, but also now we have a place where other parts of the community can come and engage with us. And we are now solidified in the community, and other people can now benefit from that space as well. So those are things, and those were things that the city would not support, but were really, really needed and had been expressed by the community a lot, and through the newspaper, through public statements. And the city was not here for anything other than 3-bedroom, 2-bath homes with garages, and large multifamily. And there's so much on the spectrum of housing in that space that it didn't make sense that we weren't addressing those needs in other ways. We found that the city really only focuses on low-income housing tax credits, which don't create the affordability that we really need, and it's temporary. And then single-family home ownership, but they also would not do different housing typologies. So there may be a senior or recent college grad that just needs a small 1-bedroom home, or a 2-1, or a small family that needs a 2-2. They only wanted to do large homes, which increases the cost. And so we are working really to try to change how housing is done in Houston, so that we can prove concept that we can do things differently. We don't have to rely on the same way of doing things. So that's kind of what we've been up to at Houston Community Land Trust, starting with home ownership, our stewardship program, and then moving into kind of our different pilot projects to prove concept, to try to change the way we're doing housing and community development, that we don't have to rely on the same old models that aren't really working in this particular economy. It's not working in cities that are becoming more expensive by the day. So we're hoping that Houston, the city, funders will listen and hear and see that we can do different things, and that the Community Land Trust is a tool that can be used to make those differences.
Thank you, Ashley. And let's all give her a round of applause, Zoom applause. And I just want to say, Ashley has been so instrumental, and particularly like your integrity on standing up for residents and what you see as right. So it's been a huge help for us here in Indianapolis. But I do want to just ask a couple questions and then open it up to anyone else. So first one was, oh, actually, Carol, do you want to start with a question? Got your hand.
Oh, well, no, I didn't, I didn't know you were. Go ahead. I'll wait until you get done.
Okay, I'll make it
Okay.
quick. Ashley, as the support from the city changed, where do you find support now? And then looking at, and you talked about the changing environment, what have you learned over the years, and where do you see us now? What do you think is possible? Where are the opportunities, and where are the challenges?
So I would say that our funding comes from grants, philanthropy, and we were really lucky and blessed to get a Mackenzie Scott grant in 2023. And that has been sustaining us along with other smaller grants. And that grant is really important because it's unrestricted. So you're able to really use it the way your organization sees fit, whether that be for long-term operations, being able to get a project completed. It's really, I think, important to not have so many barriers to being able to do what you need to do with your funds, which can often come with city, state, and federal funding. There's so many restrictions and so much reporting that sometimes it makes it really hard to even get the job done using those dollars. They're really important because there's a lot of them, but they do pose challenges when you're trying to get things done quickly, when you're trying to do things that make sense, because sometimes the requirements don't always make sense with government funding. And even some philanthropic funds sometimes have requirements that don't necessarily support kind of how things should be done to get them done quickly, efficiently, and also within a certain amount and within a certain cost. I would say that the challenges are just government funding is being cut. I mean, I think we all are a little nervous about what's to come, but I do think where there's some positive discussions happening is philanthropy knowing they're going to have to step up. And I also think that now there's a tide is shifting a little bit where philanthropy is being a little bit more open to listening to the people doing the work and not imposing their thoughts and beliefs or what has worked in the past and what they've funded in the past to be the only answer. One example I'll give of that is I applied for a grant years ago, and they wanted to fund us.
Hola, perdón por interrumpir, pero no se escucha nada la interpretación. Se escuchan solamente voces y como si
Can you
estuvieran
hear the interpretation? Eva is saying that she can't hear the interpretation. Can you hear me?
Gracias, Rocío.
Thank you, Rocio. No, that's Eva. Rocio, can you hear me? Saida? Saida Alvin, can you hear me on the English line?
Yeah, I hear you on the English line.
Okay. So they wanted to fund us, but they wanted to fund homebuyer education. And we said, well, we don't do homebuyer education. We have partners that do that work and they do it well. There's no reason for us to recreate the wheel and for you to put money into something that already exists. But also, homebuyer education does not result in somebody getting a home. And so after having that conversation and explaining that to the funder, that the funds would have more impact if they were used in this way, which was helping with closing cost versus having us create and hire somebody to do homebuyer education, which was already being done by several organizations. Their money wouldn't have as much impact if we had to do that. And so she listened, and we were then able to use those same dollars to actually get people in homes versus homebuyer education, which, is great, but it doesn't actually create the funding needed to put them in the home. And so I think we're seeing a shift and a turn because people are nervous about government funds, that philanthropy is going to start hearing us and listening. I think they're also scared. So I think that's where the benefit is coming in. Some opportunities to really push philanthropy to listen to those doing the work and to fund new innovative ideas and not the same old, especially in housing where, we're having to push them outside of the box because housing is expensive to fund. And so we have to start kind of really pushing philanthropy to even want to do affordable housing. A lot of funders don't even want to do it because it is so expensive and so challenging. And so I think by proving concept that we have tools to make housing affordability easier and sustainable, they'll start to fund it more. So yeah, we are really focusing on philanthropy right now because one, we no longer have a relationship with our city government at all. No relationship at all. So I think we all just need to be prepared to see government shift with the wind in these current political times, and just be prepared to take as much money as you can from the city, but do not rely on them full on because we just don't know what that's going to look like.
Thank you, Ashley. Carol, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Dr. Ashley. I know I know Asada. I do know her. I don't know if you know Lakeisha Wolf, Ujima, Pittsburgh, and we do the collective cooperative, Black Cooperative, with some folks from Baltimore. But anyway, I wanted to put that out there. But we've been trying to do, and I get everything that you said. You laid it all out. And I do believe you should kind of start with the homeowners because what folks are charging people for rent, you could have bought a house. So, but, and of course, we've been educating people and, like you said, listening to them. But I think one of the biggest problems that I'm having, or a lot of us are having on the ground, is getting started, right? How do we get started? And of course, we know we have met with the city of Pittsburgh, and of course, like you said, they have political mindsets, or yeah, or and the foundations, they don't want to wash their money yet. So how do we get started? And so I was just telling someone today, I really believe we should get started with a development team, right? Because then that way you have like people that could do real estate, finance, fundraising and all like that. But I just wanted to, double check with you because I also hear, well, you should go to the land bank and all that and get started there, right? But I think it's all important, but I really kind of just want to hear your opinion. And I am going to reach out to Dr. Richards because I missed her this past summer. We usually do a connect, but we didn't. So, but I just want to hear from you. What's the best way to get started? The chicken or the egg?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a couple of let me say this, every CLT starts differently. And so
Okay.
it may mean you working with an organization that already bills affordably and working with philanthropy or the city for the subsidy dollars, because that's really where the challenge is. The housing is out there. We started with the city building homes and the land bank in our partnership, but realized you can't build your way out of this and it's too slow. So taking homes that already exist and subsidizing those was the easiest way to do to start. So if we had to do it all again, I would start with home buyer driven, the way we would end up doing, versus trying to build things and work people building things from the ground up. But that's a lot and it's very expensive versus taking a home that's already there, being sold, and then putting subsidy in it to make it affordable for a buyer. I would say that was how we were able to scale quickly. And then it's an easier explanation to the city or to the county or to a funder to say, we need subsidy versus, well, we need money to completely start a CLT and we need to get land and then we need to build a home and then we need to market the home and then we need to, it's a bit easier to justify subsidy. Also, what we're working on because of our relationship with the city now is, okay, don't give us money directly or set aside money. Can our buyers just use whatever you're using for down payment assistance now, and CLT buyers just get a bigger subsidy? So there's already probably a down payment assistance program somewhere in your city, whether it be through a nonprofit or the county or the city. There's a down payment assistance program. So using those down payment assistance dollars to then be able to put towards a home buyer to make the home affordable for them and putting in the CLT to stabilize it long term. And then the second part you want to do, if you have not already done it, talking to your taxing authority. I don't know what their property taxes are like, but ours are very high because we have no income tax. So we had to go to the appraisal district and have that conversation and get an agreement with them that homes would be taxed at the reduced CLT restricted resale price and not market rate. That makes a huge difference in the long-term affordability, because if you get somebody in, but they're paying exorbitant taxes that keep increasing and they're paying increased insurance, then that affordability leaves. So what I would say is, one, talk and try to do a partnership with people who already do down payment assistance, and then allowing that down payment assistance to be used through a CLT model to get started, and then move into development or multifamily or the cooperatives, those type of things. And then talk to your taxing authority as well if you, if you need the taxing benefit. Because again, I don't know what the tax situation is in Pittsburgh, but if taxes are a problem, that would be also a conversation I would have about um, special taxing agreements with your community land trust, if that is a problem for affordability. But yeah, there's so many ways to start. And it may just be that your opportunity comes with a multifamily. Maybe somebody's willing to put their multifamily in the CLT. If an opportunity arises, take it. I don't think there's an easy way or a surefire way to start a community land trust, but I talk to community land trust probably once a week, a different one about different things. Where I'm at right now is at Here to Stay in Chicago, because I want to learn more about their condos, because we haven't done condos yet. So I just go to different CLTs and just talk until we figure out what pieces do we have, what have other people done that makes sense, and then kind of go from there. But that's kind of where I would start. If housing, single families where you want to start, I would say finding the subsidy dollars with a partner and then using those subsidy dollars for homes that are already there versus trying to build from the ground up, because it requires so many pieces.
Thank you. I know someone else want to talk, but just to let you know, our problem is we have so much vacant land.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, that's different because
yeah. And so like we're up for the challenge, and I wish we did just have the stock, before the cranes come. But that's our challenge, is because we have all the vacant land. But thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Carol. Great question. And we have time for one more to make sure we have time for Hope to share about San Francisco CLT and for people to ask questions. Anyone else have a burning question?
I have a quick question, if it's okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Will, please.
Regarding the tripartite board, I understand that, like, traditionally, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's like 1/3 leaseholders, 1/3 community members, and then like 1/3 quote unquote like stakeholders. If I am correct regarding that, how is that last third really determined by the community? That's one. And then two, are these board positions that you normally encounter appointed, or does the community have some form of voting measures that go in development of these boards and the determination of term?
Yep. No, it's up to how your CLT wants it. So our first board, our initial board was appointed by the city. So when I was hired, they were already there. And then we moved into going to our homeowners. So our agreement was that once we had, I think, 50 homeowners, we would go and put it out to the homeowners, and they could self-select if they wanted to be parts of the board, and then a simple interview, just to kind of get their thoughts and ideas and interest and time commitment. But we ended up doing it before 50 because we had people that were interested. We had homeowners that wanted to do it. And so we held a information session for the residents to come and learn about the different parts about the board and also committees. And then it ended up only being two that followed through. So they were the initial two. And then those two also helped with the new homeowners that were just added to our board, because we expanded the size. So a third needed to be more than two. And so they were kind of the leaders in interviewing and reviewing their applications and things like that. So, and then the whole board did participate, but let the residents kind of take the lead on that decision. Now, because we are now a membership organization, it'll probably be the same, but we'll be doing a little bit more of getting feedback on how they would like the process to go as far as choosing homeowners. But ultimately, we send it out to all homeowners to say, hey, we're looking for new board members. If you're interested, here's, a very simple form. We try to make it as easy as possible for not just our homeowners, but everyone. They come to an information session to learn about the responsibilities of the board. We let them know that it does not require like a high level of, previous board experience, that those things will come. So that people are not, excuse me, turned away from not having any experience. So they self-select, but it goes out to everyone. So we don't just kind of say, well, we're just going to send it out to certain people. Every homeowner gets the notification and is invited to come to the information session. As far as the other parts of the board, the initial stakeholders were community members, but also people who had expertise like finance, real estate. And so we try to keep that kind of the same. We keep kind of that same kind of model. So people who are real estate agents, or we'll put it out to maybe our local real estate community organizations, some of our partners that are at the banks, we'll put it out to them, and get recommendations from residents, get recommendations from current board members. Some of our partners will recommend folks. So we basically do it by recommendation, but try to make sure when you're doing this, that people are aligned with the CLT model. That's why we do interviews. We kind of look to see, what work have they done. If it is not a good fit for putting community first, we take that into account. But ultimately, the board then votes in the new board. And then the membership next year will start voting in board members, because we've only been a membership organization for 2 years. And now we're adding that component as part of the membership responsibilities, is to now help us vote in new board members using the criteria of, the 3 parts, but also being committed to affordability, community voice, and kind of those pillars. And that's for each CLT to decide. But yeah, that's kind of how we've done it. And it may change in the future, but that's how we've done it so far, to try to keep that 1/3, that tripartite model in effect.
Thank you, Ashley. And real quick, I know Ava's got her hand up. We'll go to you real quick. I just want to make sure we have time for Hope as well. Ashley, if people have further follow-up questions, do you mind sharing your email for
I
people?
will. I'll do it right now in the chat.
Okay, and Eva, if we can do a quick, like 30-second, 1-minute question answer, we'll take your question.
No, si quiero espero a la otra persona
No,
porque
if
creo
you
que
want,
tiene
I'll
algo que
wait
ver
to someone else because it
con
has
lo
to
que,
do
lo último que me dijo.
with
Entonces mejor me
the
espero.
last bit that she was
Gracias.
saying. So I'll just wait.
Le damos
It's
la
fine.
Okay, sounds good. Awesome. Well, let's give Ashley another thank you for joining us. And we know you have another meeting, so if you need to hop off and head to that, that's fine. If you want to stick around and learn about Hope and San Francisco CLT, you're welcome to stay on. Well, thank you again.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So I will kick it to Hope. And Hope, thank you for joining us, even though you're not feeling great today.
Yeah, it's kind of a pain in my butt, but I'm happy to be here amongst really cool folks such as yourselves and Dr. Allen. It was such a pleasure getting to hear about your origin story and what brings you to this work. I think that's radically invaluable, and I'm happy to know you. So yeah, everyone, my name's Hope Williams. My pronouns are she, her. I've been the board president for the San Francisco Community Land Trust for, I guess my LinkedIn page says almost 4 years, but it feels like 30. My background started when I came to San Francisco State University, where I worked at our legal resource center, providing students, faculty, and staff for giving them free legal advice. And 99.9% of that advice had to do with their rights as tenants and eviction defense. So I became very, 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 very integrated into the kind of nonprofit system that we have here in terms of tenant organizing and building power. After I worked at that legal center, I started working in the boycott division of a labor union called Unite Here Local 2, where I became further radicalized and did things like coordinated act of civil disobedience. You're going to start seeing a pattern and a theme here. After that, I worked in City Hall for a District 8 supervisor, and who I very much respect, but our ideology was a little bit different when it came to housing and housing rights, which is why I started working for a Democratic socialist named Dean Preston, who ran for District 5 supervisor in San Francisco. After which I ran 2 citywide campaigns, one that made the first tenants' rights attorney to ever serve for the Superior Court. She won, and then a DCCC delegate, Democratic Party delegate. So we're really trying to like seed in and foment change. And then I joined a law center called the Sustainable Economies Law Center, who spread my resume around, and that's what snagged me into working for the policy campaign for Berkeley called the Tenant Opportunity to Purchase Act, where I worked to find them endorsements for the policy because part of what I know and part of what I understand in the system is that in order to elicit change, you need to control your elected officials, and you control them by finding the money, and you control them by finding the people who endorse them. So that was my job. Partway through that journey, I met someone named Saki Bailey, who shortly after meeting her became the executive director for the San Francisco Community Land Trust. And she called me and she begged me to join the board of directors for SFCLT, again, to foment more change and radicalism, and which I, of course, happily said yes to. It's been quite the journey. I am now a city commissioner for the local agency formation commission in San Francisco, where my niche is in housing. And I also represent the San Francisco Community Land Trust Board or organization for the California Community Land Trust Network, where we have about 50 or 80 members of all CLTs, shapes and sizes, from Central Valley to LA to the Bay Area to Humboldt County, super far north. So that's a little bit about me, and I have the questions in front of me, Alvin, so I'm going to do my best to follow along with them. How did we get started? Well, in 2001, a number of people who had been involved in tenant, anti-displacement, and affordable housing activism came together to form the CLT collaborative, which is what we called it. And the collaborative was an organizing committee that initially developed, I'm talking too fast, I can already tell, was an organizing committee that initially developed a vision of a network of neighborhood-based community land trust, which emerged in San Francisco to create affordable, resident-controlled housing. And the collaborative did a lot of outreach to community groups and did many presentations, a lot of education to popularize the community land trust idea. And eventually the collaborative decided to initiate a single CLT, and SFCLT was incorporated in 2003 and became a public charity officially in 2008. And interestingly enough, our first property, we began working with groups like the Asian Law Caucus and the tenants at this building called the 53 Columbus Avenue to do a cooperative conversion on their building to turn it into a limited equity housing co-op. And in December 2005, an agreement was reached with the community college district where this property was being held to sell the building so as to enable San Francisco Community Land Trust to convert it to an LEHC in 2009 for the existing tenants. So in partnership with the tenant-led organizing groups, SFCLT helped the tenants secure both public and private funding to acquire and rehabilitate the 21-unit building in Chinatown and turned it into the Columbus United Cooperative. Very diverse capital stack, ways of raising money. I'm sure we'll have a lot of questions because I know a lot of these questions revolve around financing, so I'll do my best to answer them. One of the key programs that we implemented, and I need to couch this in something very important here, our operating budget went from $250,000 to $20,250,000 because a couple years ago, we also received a Mackenzie Scott grant, which is what has enabled us to develop these very robust programs. And without that money, we wouldn't be anywhere near where we are today, because it's a struggle, right? So we launched a program called the CLT Capacity Collaborative, which is a growing network of CLTs across the Bay Area, working together to really share resources, reduce costs, and build power. And as with most CLTs, operating on a shoestring budget and minimal staff, it's really hard to juggle resident organizing and education and real estate development. So that's where this program comes in by adopting what we called a hub and spoke infrastructure. Member CLTs can really tap into that centralized support for expensive and technical functions like finance, asset management, and legal services, really freeing them up to focus on what they do best, which is organizing and stewarding community-owned housing. And the goal is really long-term sustainability, deeper community control, and the ability to scale CLT impact without every organization having to reinvent the wheel or secure massive fundraising on their own. So it's through collective governance and, fee for service programs led by the San Francisco Community Land Trust that this program is building a model where small local CLTs can thrive, really bringing permanently affordable housing to more cities and stopping displacement in the neighborhoods that are more at risk. So the benefits are technical assistance through shared governance, reduction in the costs of operations through the economies of scale, optimized system processes to ensure high quality output. We got to free up CLTs to do the real work of community ownership and staff support and resident development. One of the other programs that we implemented, which is in its pilot stage, and I want to reemphasize this again, would not be able to do this kind of work if it wasn't for that grant from Mackenzie Scott a couple of years ago, is what we call the eviction diversion program, preventing ourselves from evicting residents. We developed this program a couple of years ago. It's still in its early stages, where we created, as we know, there are situations in which tough decisions must be made, but there are certainly ones that are preventable, and which is why we implemented this program. And I think we've helped now 5 individuals from being evicted through this diversion program, and that number continues to grow. And it's probably more, you'll have to excuse me, it's our policy director, Kyle Smealy, who's been holding this and stewarding it through. I will now move to, sorry to be so formal. So how have we approached governance of the organization? What have we changed over the years? And based off of what we've learned that has worked. So it's been mentioned before, we have a tripartite board as well, which is made up of what we call general, public, and resident members. We increased our board number from 3 per category to 5 per category, with the idea being that there would be more opportunities for residents to engage and govern on the board to increase their power, because in my opinion, and what is factual, is that we wouldn't exist if it wasn't for our residents, and we need to give them as much power as humanly possible so that they can control their own destiny and fate. We have executive team meetings every single week. That includes myself, our board treasurer, our secretary, and our vice president. And we have a series of committees. We have a policy committee, we have a finance committee, we have an audit committee, which is super fun. We have a resident engagement committee. And I would say one of the things we learned, and as I've been moving forward in this work, is that we should probably be paying people for their labor, especially the residents who have decided to give their valuable and precious time to serving on the board, which is why we give board members a $500 stipend. I myself do not take that money because it would be a conflict of interest, as it would with a lot of our other board members. So funds that are funneled to our residents and for our residents to enable them to continue to engage in governing on the board. And how have we collaborated with the city and changed the local ecosystem and community ownership of housing? These are great questions, Alvin. Feels like a lot of what Dr. Allen has had to go through. We had a very interesting mayor before our current mayor who held millions and millions and millions of dollars hostage. Money that was allocated for a program called the Small Sites Program, which was implemented in conjunction with a piece of legislation that affordable housing developers created in 2018 called the Community Opportunity to Purchase Act. Much like the Tenant Opportunity to Purchase Act, this instead would give nonprofit affordable housing developers the right to first refusal, allowing them to purchase the property before a third property entered into the equation. So there was, how do we fund the Small Sites Program? Well, we'll pass an initiative that will take money from the richest people in San Francisco and funnel it into this program, a broader one that is money that is earmarked for housing specifically, including the Small Sites Program. But the problem with this, and this is a lesson learned, is that this money was put into the general fund. It wasn't specifically for any one category. It was just, here it is, discretionary, which is what enabled the mayor to take control of that. And through a series of just her being herself, only gave some of the money to some developers who would kowtow to her and none of the money to the ones who wouldn't. And the ones who wouldn't were the ones who were very tenants' rights forward, which I would say the tenants' rights organizing in San Francisco is one of the most powerful lobbying bodies in the city. They get things done. But even that was an uphill battle and a very interesting slog. One of the other ways that we engaged, because, you know, through the mayor, she controls other things like the mayor's Office of Housing and Community Development, which is the department that we'd engage in when wanting to purchase properties through the Small Sites Program. It's hard to develop and engage in a relationship with a partner that doesn't, someone who's unwilling to do so because of the lack thereof rapport between the nonprofit and the mayor, and we weren't willing to compromise on our values to do so. So we relied on a lot of different areas of funding. We crowdsourced a lot. We fundraised a lot. We went to outside sources, and every now and again, we would get funds from the Small Sites Program. And the way that we did that is that the tenants within these properties knew that in order to get those funds, they would have to organize collectively and approach their elected official, their district supervisor, and advocate for themselves and come to us simultaneously to draw out the plan, the pro forma, the capital stack, all of the things and above, all of these things at once simultaneously. And through that, have the supervisor advocate on behalf of the tenants to the mayor's office, of Housing and Community Development, which would then increase our chances of getting that funding so that we could purchase that property, which is a sad thing. I mean, it's important to have your residents educated on what a CLT is, because I see that as a pattern. You know, we're always in kind of this crisis mode where we don't want people to get evicted. We don't want people to get displaced. So it's kind of running as fast as we can to get those properties off the speculative market. And once that happens, it's like, okay, then what? You know, we're a landlord, sure, but we're a better landlord and we're not going to increase your rent exponentially. Or it's actually another lesson learned in terms of the Small Sites Program, which I can probably hop back to seamlessly right now. A quick pivot. So the Small Sites Program, in order to get funding from the Small Sites Program, you had to adhere to a rule that would mean that you would need to participate in a lottery system. So with CLTs and resident-owned housing, you could imagine that all of those residents are working collectively and on the same page and governing themselves and doing the work and choosing who can live there in order to, hold this delicate ecosystem and balance that is needed in order to maintain stability. But with the lottery system, the city chose for you, and they would choose where as well. So if you're a tenant and you need to live in a home that's stable and has decreased rent, you didn't really have the ability to select where in the city you'd want to live, where you've lived somewhere for 30 plus years. Now you're being told that you need to move across 7x7, right? The city is really small, but it's also really big. So plucked from one spot, put into another, into a building that was a little bit disorienting and confusing. So where the SFCLT came in terms of what we ultimately see as the best thing possible is a limited equity housing cooperative. That system does not jive with a lottery system, which we call Dahlia. So moving on, every system is imperfect and there's not enough preemptive thought in the world. The other method that we have is going into each district. There are 11 districts in, 11 districts in San Francisco, each one very unique, but finding a property in each of those districts to show that CLTs are able to scale and show that this model can benefit each one of these districts each one of these supervisors districts, thereby like increasing our political power and our influence within. We have a new mayor now. We're not sure if he's any better. We don't know if he knows what affordable housing means, but we're here to educate him, right? And show up as we do with any property now moving forward. We go into community, we go to small business owners, we go door to door, and we're like, let's preach the good word of community land trust. Here's what we are. Here's what we're about. What do you think? How do you feel? And doing the same thing to the new mayor's office and his lack of a better, never mind, cronies. And just trying to help people understand that this is a very important movement, that is a very valuable and real solution to the affordable housing crisis and housing crisis en masse. So education is a huge piece, not just with our elected officials, but also our residents as well. What current projects are we working on and what challenges and opportunities are you seeing? We have an acquisition on deck. Can't yet speak to what that is. It's a secret, but now you know part of the secret. But our most recent was 320 14th Street in the Mission District. It was a 16-unit building. There were, 22 tenants in that building that organized against the landlord and went on a rent strike back in 2018 because their house just had mold, broken windows, there were cockroaches, and it fell into foreclosure. That property fell into foreclosure, which is when San Francisco swooped in and was able to take that property off of the speculative market. So I guess what challenges and opportunities are you seeing? Challenges, funding. Now that we have that grant from Mackenzie Scott, a lot of our funders are like, well, why do you still need money? You have $20 million. I don't see why that's important anymore. And the answer is because $20 million will buy you a property and a half in San Francisco. And what we really want to do with that money and by increasing the money is really kind of giving out what our capacity collaborative program is doing, which is like giving time and money and giving back, again, capacity to these smaller CLTs to help them develop their own programmatic work to allow for them to do what it is that they're intended to do, which is engage with residents and encourage, the spreading of CLTs in the ecosystem. So I'm gonna stop talking. That was a lot. Love questions. I also love juicy questions. I have a lot of opinions. So if you have anything extra spicy, please come at me. I'm really interested in knowing what that is. We also have different state legislation that's going on right now that I could probably talk about and would love nothing more to do, but I'll zip it. Check.
Thank you, Hope. That was great. So we'll open it up for questions, particularly if you have juicy, spicy questions.
I have a question if it's okay.
Yeah.
Regarding the membership structure, I know you talked about like expanding it to like 5 parts or something like now, something to that regard. How is kind of membership determined within the community land trust? How is it expanded? How do those choices get made? Is there a fiscal like entry point to it? Like what kind of just determines who's like just the base of the community land trust and then who are actually members and actually get voting rights?
Okay. So everyone has voting rights, and I think the residents, well, the board determines who serves on the board. They all get votes. And I guess that's the simplest way I can put that. There isn't like a point, there isn't like a entry point that you need to like, there's no hurdle to get over. It's just who are you? What are you about? What's your background? We value and put more weight on whether or not if you're a resident. And then in terms of like public in general, those are kind of not very distinguishable. There's no yeah, they're not fairly distinguishable in terms of like, if we want to be more specific, like a public figure would have a professional background, which I think that's a dirty word. But if you're an attorney, if you're an accountant, if you have a real estate background, if you're an architect, things of that nature makes you a perfect candidate for that specific spot. That is not what we do on our board or how we come at it, because I refuse to adhere to that. I think we are all bringing things to the table and all bringing perspectives to the table that are highly, highly unique. And I welcome anyone to sit in on one of our board meetings to see what it is that I'm talking about. And we worked really hard to transition the board into something that really reflects our own residents, which I believe are 70% BIPOC, so they look like me. And I guess I meant less regarding board. Oh, thanks, Will, for your clarification. In the chat, Will says, I guess that meant less regarding board membership and more so general body membership of the CLT. I'm sorry, you are forgiven. General membership, general body membership. General membership. If you pay, I think $15 a month, you're considered a member of CLT. And you do get a vote. Unfortunately, I think as with a lot of CLTs, engagement is hard. And what I will say is that we don't really have an excuse anymore in terms of how to engage our residents and our general membership, because we are financially secure. And it's a choice that we make on where we want to put our resources in order to increase that engagement. Now, when we were working with 2 staff members and had an operating budget of maybe $200,000, that was made a lot harder to do. So I think now we have this amazing opportunity to do more with what we have, including things like getting rid of rents is one of the conversations that we're having right now.
Ashley, I saw you come off mute. Did you want to ask something before you have to pop off or add anything?
Right now, our membership is all homeowners. We are looking, because we try to do the membership kind of in steps, to make sure that the residents felt comfortable, asking their questions and engaging and having their voice kind of be the primary voice first. And then now we're opening it up next year to people, kind of general community stakeholders. So they will have to pay. Our homeowners don't pay to be members just by being a homeowner in the CLT. You are automatically part of the membership. And right now they comprise the entire membership. So, but we are looking to expand that to bring in more community stakeholders, but also the alignment has to be there. So creating kind of pillars that you have to agree to if you are going to be a member of the CLT. And then also there will be a fee attached to it, because we want to make sure that you're not just coming in to disrupt, because we've had people who actually wanted to join our board who were very anti-CLT because they just wanted to be involved, to have their voice heard, and to, I guess, see what they could do from the inside, I guess. But people we knew spoke very against the CLT, then came to one of our board members to ask about being a board member. And so we don't want that same thing to happen with membership. So we do have to kind of create systems that make sure alignment is there and that they are for the betterment of community and permanent affordability, and believe in community voice in housing development, and community development in general. So that's kind of where we are. But again, it's different for every CLT. We just chose to start with our residents first as the only members, and then expand it as we figure out what membership looks like for us.
Yeah, don't go against the mission statement and our charitable purpose, y'all.
Ooh.
It's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. Thank you, Ashley. And hope you left that out, the idea of ending rent. I just don't want to just leave that out there. So you want to speak more to that? And I also was curious if you could speak to the eviction diversion program. I do know, particularly organizations that work with community, the idea of becoming a landlord is a little scary through the lens of, well, what if someone can't pay? Like, what do you do? And how do you maintain that relationship and also maintain reciprocity?
Sure. I guess, it's easy to be a reductionist in this. Like I said, there are some times where you have to make these hard decisions as a landlord, which I also makes my skin crawl. But that's the system that we live in. The rules of housing are governed by landlord-tenant law. That's just the way that things are right now. Can we change it? Absolutely. How? Just by talking about it and making it part of the forefront of what it is, like where you want to see change happen. The eviction diversion policy came about because, and this is probably not something that's going to sit well with a lot of folks, but it's really, really, really expensive to evict someone. It is time consuming. Landlord, attorneys come at a cost. It is much cheaper to help pay someone's rent for maybe 3 months, if not more, than it is to bring that into the equation. So you are actually saving yourself time, you're saving yourself money, you're doing things for the betterment of like other people's well-being and livelihoods, and understanding, meeting them where they're at, that they are a teacher with a child, they are a veteran, they have been out of work for months and months on end. You are recognizing that people are coming in at different spaces, and you got to just meet them where they're at. And you can't just treat them as kind of like this one size fits all. Oh, you're not paying rent, therefore you're a bad person. Oh, it's you're not paying rent. Well, one, we shouldn't have rent in the first place. And two, what can we do to show up with you in these situations to prevent that from happening? And how can we provide support? Because we are a landlord, but we can choose to be different landlords. We can choose to be different. There are extenuating circumstances. If there's a history of domestic violence, that kind of thing, and you're the one who hasn't been paying your rent, and you're well, not paying rent, but if you're a danger to other tenants, to other residents, then that's not something we can abide by. And that's something that where we have to make that decision. And we're doing a presentation on the eviction diversion policy at the California Community Land Trust Network conference in September. I think hopefully it'll be live streamed, but we'll see. But welcome everyone to come to Fresno, California. The only time in life you ever have to do that again. You had your first, Alvin, you had like a two-part, oh, it's 30 seconds left. Okay, never mind. And scene.
Cool. Thank you, Hope. And when you have that info, if you could please, you can send it to that email group that we sent the reminders to. That would be great. And also, could you share your email in the chat? And are you good if people follow up with questions if they have more questions?
Yeah, I'll doing better. People can fill out my Calendly.
Okay, even better.
And schedule anytime you want.
Yeah, thank you, Hope. And Will had a follow-up question in the chat. Have the fees seemed to encourage involvement amongst residents or more so functioned as a deterrent for those who can't pay? So have they been a deterrent fees or do you see them as a way to encourage involvement amongst residents?
Our residents don't pay fees to be in the membership. They're paying rent. They don't need to pay more. In terms of like deterrent for others, I mean, people sign up to be a member and they pay. That doesn't mean we see an increased engagement. It's just like, oh, they're paying $15 every month and that's their contribution. But I think this was more directed towards the doctor. I'm sorry, doctor.
Oh no, our homeowners don't pay. It's what I was saying as far as fees, it'll be the general public or when we decide to open up membership next year, they will have to pay a fee. So we'll see. I don't know yet because our current homeowners are the only members of the membership organization currently, and they don't pay. They're automatic members by virtue of being a resident of the CLT.
Awesome.
Okay, so just wanted to add a little bit of clarity, like point of clarification. So essentially by being within the focus area or however the community land trust defines the area they serve, those residents are members off RIP and then are able to be a part of it. And if so, how do you guys determine voting rights?
Oh,
I
I'm
guess
sorry.
that's kind of.
Oh yeah, I see what you're saying. So yeah, no, just because you live in the area, because we serve all of Houston and Harris counties, and parts of Harris County. When I say resident, I mean people who are actually signed a ground lease and have a home that is in partnership with the CLT, not just you live next door to a CLT resident and you're in Houston, you're automatically a member, you're considered a resident. When I say residents, I mean our actual homeowners for us. That's what resident means for us. So what I'm saying now is we will open it up to other people who live in the in the community or our stakeholders in the community, maybe small businesses. They will then be able to be members of the Houston Community Land Trust. But in terms of residents, it's people who are actually in CLT properties.
Understood. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Will. So time for one last, we are at time, but I want to make room if there's one last burning question people have. Dar.
I'm sorry, I couldn't get
Go
off
ahead.
mute, and I know we have to jump off. You mentioned both of y'all mentioned a lot of ways to raise funds. If you could, well, this is recorded, right, Al?
Yep.
If I guess I could reach out to either one of y'all and just email you for like a list. That's what I'll do since we can ready to jump off. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Carol. So let's all come off mute and give our special guests a round of applause and a thank you. More emojis. Those are good too. Thanks, Darnell. Well, I just want to thank everyone again, especially Hope and Ashley for joining us. We're going to do this session again next month. We don't have a special speaker yet it'll be September 1st, the first Monday. So if you have anyone in mind that you think, hey, we should have this person on here to talk and share about their work, please send me an email, send Zara and I an email, and or volunteer yourself to join and share about your work too. So thank you again, and we'll make sure to get the recordings out this time for everybody. And everyone have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.
You too.
Thank you.
Everybody.